Hello Cherries fans and welcome to the second look here on Back of the Net. My name's Sam Davis.
My name's Tom Jordan.
And we're here after our first away game of the season, and it went to the script really, didn't it, Tom? 4-0 to Manchester City. Bournemouth were soundly beaten, and it's one of them performances from Bournemouth where I don't think you can read too much into it because the golf in class is that great. They were superb City, weren't they?
They were. I think 4-0 was probably one of the favoured results from people that were predicting it, really. So yeah, they want a lot to, as you say, to be seen. We can't take too much from it. Lost a unbeaten run in the Premier League this season, which is a shame. But no, it kind of went, as you said, mate, to the script. But it's a shame because you always go into them games thinking, oh, maybe. And first 10 or so minutes, I thought, well, you never know. But as soon as they get the first, I think it's only going one way. It was a difficult one. Obviously, we talk about a few injuries and illnesses that didn't help us. But yeah, City are too good. One of the best teams I've probably ever seen live, mate, to be honest with you. They're ridiculous. So yeah, no shame in losing there. And we won't be the only team to lose by 4 or so at that place, in my opinion.
And Man City, of course, they're a team that we haven't managed to get a point against in all competitions in a long time, so it was always going to be a tough ask. And against the champions of England, the newly promoted side from the Championship, boasting a number of players that had rarely even played Premier League football up until last weekend, it was always going to be a challenge. But yeah, 4-0 to Manchester City. It's one of those results, Tom, where if you're a fan of a Premier League club that isn't one of those two, you sort of look down the results and you don't raise your eyebrows. No. It's standard, isn't it? So yeah. I don't think we were embarrassed. I don't think that it is a shock to anyone that sees that. It's just a run-of-the-mill result, really. Yeah,
there'll be no surprise. It isn't going to be talked about. You know, you're seeing the Brentford Man U results being talked about everywhere. That won't be talked about. So yeah, it went as expected, but we didn't cause any surprise, did we? We didn't surprise anyone with the way we played, really, which is a shame. But yeah, as you say, mate, it went exactly as I kind of expected. And I think we kind of said on the preview that 1 or 2 looks quite. Oh, Bournemouth done it right. 3 and 4 that's what we expect, and 5 or above is oh dear. So it was exactly how I expected. 3 or 4. I think that was probably what most people predicted.
If you're brand new to the channel, make sure you press the subscribe button. In this video, it's called a second look because we're going to do just that, taking a look at the full 90 and perhaps trying to explain what went wrong, what we maybe could have done better. But it's a tricky one. Looking back in hindsight is always easy, especially when you get beaten 4-0 and you can wheel out that microscope and you can look at these little minutiae within games and overanalyze it to death, but they were just too good. But at 2 o'clock, Tom, our feelings about the game, perhaps there's always that chink of optimism in there, that little bit of optimism. But then when we saw that Solanke was out and Zamora was out, it was 3 changes in total, wasn't it? Yeah, he also dropped Billing out, didn't he? But I think a lot of people kind of thought Billing might come out for this game because of the way the game and the way we'd set up. But Dom and Jay-Z are probably 2 of our... Obviously, Dom's probably our standout player. That's who everyone looks to. And Jay-Z, because we haven't got another natural player on that left wing back, so it means we have to, mix things around a little bit. So they're probably, weirdly, the 2 that you think they're the 2 that we don't want to lose because we haven't really got any like-for-like replacements in the way they play. So yeah, that was a real shame. I think a lot of us kind of said, obviously that's a blow, but I'd rather lose them now than, a game that we expect to hopefully get something out of. So maybe it is, I think by the sounds of it, Dom's got a knock and they thought we're not going to risk it against City because we're probably not going to get anything anyway and you'll probably just be running around without the ball. But that was definitely a shame, and it was obviously a surprise because we didn't know that. It sounds like Zamora was an illness, COVID potentially. That's right.
So we'll see how he recovers from that, and we'll wait to see. Hopefully they'll both be. It sounds like they're missing, but they should be in contention for the next game. That's what I'm hoping anyway. But yeah, that didn't help things.
So when I saw the team lineup, of course, Bournemouth announced it in the way they do on social media with a long list. So my assumption was that we were going to be playing a similar formation. But I did think that Jack Stacey would be on the right and Adam Smith on the left.
That's exactly what I thought.
Adam Smith has shown that he can do that. Jack Stacey's rarely played on the left for
AFCB. I can't really
Bournemouth
remember him doing it.
Maybe he has once or two. No, I don't think he has. So that one struck me to be a little bit strange. Why do you think that was?
I said it on Twitter. Someone posted about that because that was a real surprise. I think 99% of people thought it was going to be the other way around. And the only thing I could think of is we've been because Jay-Z was a COVID case. Sounds like it was kind of a last minute pull out. And all I can think is they've been working all week on, how they're going to deal with their opponents, how the shape's going to be in that back five, etc., etc. And they thought, we'd rather just put someone in for Jay-Z when he's pulled out last minute than going, right, Smithy, we'd have to start again with you because you're going to be playing against someone different now, and you'd have to have... And that's all I can think is they've looked at it and thought Smithy's been working all week on being that right wing back up against certain players, and having Cancelo coming from their side, and the way he would link up, because obviously Mepham played on that right centre back, and they've been probably working at combinations and how they're going to get out, and they thought, I just don't want to disrupt it too much. That's all I can think. And if that's the case, because I can't think of any other reason really, then I kind of do get it. I do get it. I guess the game was gone, but I thought they might come out second half and have switched flanks, but I guess you got to a point where it was 3-0. But that's the only thing I could think of, mate, is they've been working on something all week and they didn't want to disrupt it too much.
And that's maybe why Marcus Senesi wasn't involved from the off as well, because one of the things that we spoke about on a previous show was that Lewis Cook is invariably better when he's on the ball more, and this is a fixture where he wasn't on the ball much at all. And we'll take a look at the stats, the heat maps and all that kind of stuff later on in the show. But Pearson's, I think he played really well actually, considering, and again, you've said he's better off the ball, so I was quite surprised that Lerma wasn't moved up, because I think we could have done with that in midfield. But other than that, we had Tavernier and Christie and Tavernier. I've done it again, mate.
Yeah.
Tavernier.
But a few people do that. That's a common one, I think.
You know what? And
Tavernier and Tavernier, yeah. I'm sure it's got to be Tavernier, isn't it?
Yeah, it is Tavernier. Yeah. I remember when I used to call Bombardier the ale or beer or whatever it is. I used to call it Bombardier.
Bombardier, yeah. I think I might have done that actually, yeah.
But yeah, Kiefer Moore starting up top. And let's go through the game then, mate. I mean, let's firstly talk about the atmosphere at the Etihad. We've got an away day review show on the way, but I was actually quite impressed with it, to be fair. They were quite loud. I thought it was going to be one of these tourist occasions, but when you've got your first match of the season, everyone's hyped up, but also a certain £50 million rated striker starting for you as well, it's not a surprise that they were quite hyped up for it, even though it's little old Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think it does help that they're the ones that make the noise are right next to you as well in the away end, so that certainly makes it feel louder. But yeah, they were up for it. I thought they were decent compared to other big sides atmospheres, to be honest. But and when Bernardo Silva come on, they gave him a good reception. And there was some chance out there, and I thought they were okay, to be fair. I thought we probably struggled a little bit. I know Scott Parker said how great we were, which was nice, but I think that's probably the poorest we've been for a long time.
I think so.
Because it's so hard to get up for it. Because I always think at them sort of games, you're going to be up against Kosh, but if you get like loads of set pieces, we had one corner.
Yeah, and when we were celebrating like we scored.
Yeah, you can't really do much. It's so hard to chart them on. We done our best, but yeah, I didn't think we were great. And I thought the City fans were all right, mate. And they, like you say, they were up for it, first home game, and they scored relatively early, so got them up for it straight away.
And before they scored, it seemed like without working too hard, it never felt like they really left second or third gear throughout most of the game. But we were just trying to sponge, soak up their attack quite a lot, and they peppered our goal quite a lot, didn't they? We had Mark Travers to thank, at stage, and they had shots that went wide, just an Ethan Ake header that just...
I think he could have had a hat-trick.
Yeah.
He had header, he had that header, and then he nearly got on the end of across the box, and Ake's one of them players. I mean, we obviously all worship him, as you saw at the end of the game when he comes straight over to us. It was really nice that we never really got to give him a send-off because of COVID, so it was nice to show our love for him. But I've never seen a centre-half who's such a poacher. Yeah. Like, the amount of goals he scored for us, it would just ricochet and tap it in. Yeah. Remember the Liverpool one, and there was, I think, West Ham, and he nearly done that a couple of times early on. And yeah, to be honest with you, as much as we got to, I think it was about 16 odd minutes, after about a minute, I thought all that hope kind of went. I just thought these lot, we just can't do this all game.
Too good.
We can't do it.
Just their movement, their technical qualities on the ball, their little intricate passing, and at times we were chasing shadows. Jack Stacey was early doors, and he got booked after hauling down Mahrez. I think some people were saying it's soft, but I don't know. It was a late challenge and picked up the first yellow card, and that sets a precedent, doesn't it? That sets a trend. Yeah. You're thinking, okay, so is the referee going to dish out bookings that easily? But then for Jack Stacey, he's got to play the remaining 86 plus minutes.
Yeah.
Walking that tightrope against a player with such incredible technical quality, so it was always going to be hard for him.
It was, to be fair to him, he carried on the game and managed to. I don't really think he ever looked like he was going to get a second booking. So that he deserves credit for that. But I thought he struggled on the day, to be honest with you. I don't want to read too much into it because he's playing on the wrong side against Man City, and he hasn't played too much football even last season. So yeah, difficult day for him. But it's one of them. I think the ref could probably let it go and think that's your first one. Do anything, you're getting booked. But I suppose Mahrez just tore him in knots really, and. Yeah, it was a bit of a rash one, but yeah, he had a tough afternoon, as he probably expected, especially on his weaker side.
And they were getting corner after corner as well. And when they're right in front of us, you just feel as though it's building, and we just couldn't get out of our own half. As I say, later on we'll take a look at the heat maps and the average positions of some of our players, which makes very interesting reading. But I don't think the stats that people will be seeing later on in the show will be that much different for many Man City games. Of course, when you're playing teams of quality like Liverpool, Spurs, maybe Arsenal, of course.
I think we ended up with more possession than West Ham did.
Wow.
So well, and West Ham were at home, so it's like we've got to take this all with a pinch of salt, as we've kind of said. It's frustrating. It's really hard to watch because of how good they are, but we are definitely not going to be the first team, and we won't be the last, mate. So yeah, they're very, very good at what they do. We've spoken kind of previews and stuff about, they've got all the money, all this, blah, blah, blah. But how Pep's managed to get them all just playing into a system, it's just, the way they just manipulate the opposition, and you just can't do anything.
They do the same thing over and over though, and it just seems to work. Like, always got overloads, always got loads of options when on the ball. And it just showed with their first main chance that they had. They had a few, but that was when Travers was called into action with that save. I think that De Bruyne, it was either a shot or he was trying to pick out Haaland, but it got a deflection on the way and it fell really nicely to Foden.
He should have squared it.
He should have. Well, when you're looking at the replays there are two of them.
Well, how he didn't square it.
And he went for it. I mean,
I still think that's why he was brought off at half time.
Do you reckon?
Because the game's won at 3-0. Why are you taking him off for?
And I can imagine Pep's that kind of manager that would probably pull someone off for that. So.
I mean, it was just. I was well happy because I didn't have Haaland in my fantasy team because it was just he was fuming, wasn't he? It was just an easy. But Travers made himself big and made a really good save. Yeah. In fairness to him, he wasn't. A lot of keepers would have maybe looked at that, kind of got over, and then he would have got you at the near post. Yeah. And Travers come out really well, and once again, he probably come out of the game decent. He made a few stops early on, but. It just showed how they could get in, and I don't know. That was the moment where I thought, when he made that save, I thought it's going to be our day. But it didn't last long. I don't know. A part of me thought, as soon as he went through, I thought goal, and then when he didn't score, I thought, ooh, you never know. But it didn't feel like long after until they did manage to break the deadlock. To be fair to them.
Yeah, so they managed to score fairly early on. I think it was the 19th minute. In my head, I was wanting it to maybe last until 20, 25 minutes or whatever, but wasn't to be. And
it was fortunate.
It was a bit fortunate, wasn't it? Talk me through the goal, mate, as far as you remember it.
Well, Haaland gets given the assist there, and I think he did keep going, to be fair to him, but it kind of fell into his path quite fortuitously. That's what I would say. Yeah. But a few of our players went in to try to scrap it off him, and it just kind of ricocheted nicely, and he managed to hook it through, and Gundogan makes a great run, and Gundogan's so good at them runs off the ball, past the front man. And he's in. As soon as he's in, there's only one thing that's going to happen. He's going to put the ball into the back of the net. Nice finish. But I thought Haaland was don't get me wrong, he done well to keep the ball alive, but we were a little bit unfortunate. We probably got drawn into the ball a little bit too much. Someone should have watched the Gundogan run, but yeah.
That's what I'm looking at there. So we're actually watching sort of a replay of the goal whilst we're talking to you, and Kyle Walker fires it into Gundogan's feet like really quickly, and at that stage it looks like Chris Mepham's then drawn into it.
And they're going for a quick one too.
Yeah, they are going for
and it doesn't come off. That's why I'm saying it's because he doesn't get the quick one too, because Lerma gets him really well.
Lerma gets it, but it just manages to fall nicely. And when you've got a player who's that strong, if there's a 50-50 and it doesn't quite fall your way, you know he's got the strength just to nudge Lerma over a little bit. I know that Lerma's strong himself, but then it just falls to him, and then Gundogan's, he's following up his run, and on the floor, Haaland's almost making the pass with his left foot, and it falls nicely onto the left foot of Gundogan, who just put it to the right of Travers as he approached him. And yeah,
do you
really
think,
good goal,
just a quick one, I was thinking, when you watch, because obviously we hadn't seen City for a few years because we haven't been in the Premier League, and we talk, I think like most people do, Haaland was obviously a lot talked about. You always talk about, I know Grealish didn't start, but Grealish is your Mahrez, your Foden, your De Bruyne. Watching him live, I thought, Gundogan's bloody good, and you forget how good he is. I just thought, watching him live, I thought, he doesn't get enough credit, because he's just as, he's just as effective as all of them. Yeah. But maybe because sometimes he's not as flashy, but I thought he was brilliant. And yeah, it didn't surprise me that he's so good at them runs. And then the next goal, mate, is just a joke.
Well, we're just watching this goal through now, and one of the things that I found, like at half time, you can sort of look back, and it felt like the times that we were most susceptible were when we were in their half.
It's the problem.
Which is absolutely nuts. When, you know, our attacks were few and far between, but it started with almost a clearance from the sort of right back area, and Lerma managed just to get his head on it, but then it falls to Man City, and then I think it's Foden in the middle of the pitch who opens up De Bruyne, and at this stage he's almost halfway into his half, and it's so difficult when he's running so directly at goal, and you're thinking there's lots of movement around him, what's he going to do, but he just bears down on Kelly and then just jinks his body left and right. Kelly's not knowing which way to go, and it presents itself where you can see it from this angle here that we're looking at. It's just either a left-footed finish, but as it happened, outside of his right boot into that corner of the net. And
like watching you on a Sunday, mate.
Travis had no chance, did he? But the technical quality then was absolutely super.
Yeah, if we're gonna quickly look at it from a ball perspective, as you said, mate, that's what's so difficult against Man City. You could defend all you want, and then you think right, and then you take your chances when in transition when you get the break. But every time we got the break, we weren't. That's to be critical. If the final ball don't come off, you're done. You're absolutely done. And I also feel Lewis Cook in the middle of the pitch in the build-up to that move, when Lerma wins the header and it drops down, he makes a silly lunge when he should just stand his ground, and then they're breaking away. Poor from him, really. And if you want to be really critical, it's very difficult for him, but does Lloyd Kelly back off too much? He doesn't go near the ball once. He just goes back, doesn't he? And doesn't even get anywhere near a block. So, yeah, that was difficult, but the finish is unbelievable. De Bruyne was incredible all game, like he always is. But yeah, it's difficult to be too critical. But obviously, in this sort of show, we need to kind of look at it a little bit from our perspective. And there were a few things in that move that I think Scott would probably say, look, in that transition when we lose the ball, we've got to be better there. As soon as Lerma wins the header, you feel like you've got your job done. You know, they play it long. Lerma wins it. Now you get on that second ball, and I felt Lewis just lunged in a bit poorly. And then we just backed off. And that was probably in the mindset of we saw that first goal and we're worried about them runs in behind and we're just backing off. Very difficult, because if you jump in at De Bruyne, he's probably skipping past you. So it is really hard, but don't take anything away from the finish, mate. It was sublime. I nearly got up and clapped. Unbelievable finish.
And playing teams of that calibre, when you go 1-0 down, the referee might as well blow his full-time whistle. That's how it felt for me.
Well, I felt we needed to have any sort of, say, chance, but any way of keeping the score down was when they scored that first goal, was somehow get to half-time at 1-0. Yeah. And I remember actually saying, I can't remember who I said it to, I said, as long as they don't go get a few quick ones in succession now before half-time, which is obviously what happened, but you need to get to half-time level 0-0 or 1-0, worst case, and for them to score that second was a real killer.
Players were taking drinks breaks. I was surprised that Scotty P still wearing that jacket or cardigan, whatever it was, with his 4 stripes. How he got through that, I don't know. He must have been absolutely baking. We certainly were, where we were stood. And you know what? I don't mind the heat, you know, I quite like the sun on my back or whatever, but when there was no breeze whatsoever, I was absolutely dying. And, you know, the Man City fans were loving it, they were in full voice, and then before long they got their third, but it came from a situation where Bournemouth had a little bit of a foothold in the game at that point. They had some relatively good possession. And then we're up there on the left-hand side, and there's a combination between Christie and Jack Stacey that just breaks down. And if you see the matchday vlog, it's on youtube.com/AFCB podcast if you're listening to the audio pod. And just miscommunication or whatever it was, but the ball back to Stacey flat-footed, and then all of a sudden Man City are on the break, and it's amazing how they transition so quickly from not only one half to the other, but the other side of the pitch as well.
Yeah, I think it was Mara switched that over, wasn't it? And the weight of the pass from De Bruyne as well. Just when they switched the play, he's just carrying the ball and he's just waiting for Foden. It's the only one he can give it to. Yeah. He's just waiting for Foden, and then just plays it inch perfect. And Travers will like to think he could have maybe kept that one out. I think it takes a little bit of a deflection.
Is that the opportunity that Scott Parker will take to...
I wouldn't have thought so. He kept us in it.
I hope not.
He kept us in it, especially at 0-0. I felt we kept it level for a while. But yeah, it's just one of them. I think it takes a little bit of a deflection. He just gets wrong-footed.
When you look at it, so we're looking at a still from the game, which we're going to put on screen. Of course, we can't put any motion footage on, but I'm seeing there 4 Man City players, and of course, if you get Travers as well, 8 Bournemouth players. At that stage, you're thinking, surely we've got enough to win the ball back. But it's all about the timing, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how many times they did this kind of pass throughout the game, but it felt like every 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And you'd think that teams could maybe wise up to it, but it just can't.
The legs as well. I think it's Lewis Cook just can't keep up with Foden with his run. Just can't keep up with them at all. The ball has to be perfect, and it is because it's Kevin De Bruyne. It's an unbelievable finish. But as you say earlier in the move, mate, that left hand side, which I thought struggled, Ryan Christie gives the ball away, and that's what happens. You give the ball away, they're just off straight away. You have to be so good with your decision making, and I didn't think we were when we got the ball in the final third, which was very few and far between. But yeah, really good goal. What minute was that goal? Their third goal.
Yeah, their third goal came on 37 minutes, so there was still 8.
Yeah, no, I
minutes
just
left
feel a little bit bad, so I missed it because I went for a beer. But yeah, no, I saw it afterwards, and yeah, it was a lovely goal, but it was a killer because you didn't want to get to half time like that. But we're going to second half now, and I think we were all fearing the worst at 3-0. I think we were thinking this could be 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, we were, and that's probably natural, isn't it? When you're 3, because you know that they've got such strength on the players that they've brought on as well. Ridiculous, really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Fortunately, I think we said this in the preview, didn't we, in the West Ham game, that once they've got the win, they don't want to exert too much. They just keep the ball. They don't, do you know what I mean? They're not going to go gunner. They just manipulate the game really well. So it meant they didn't really go mental, and we could just keep in our shape. And we're also not even going to worry about trying to score, are we? We're just thinking keep the score down.
Were you surprised at the fact we didn't make any changes at half time, or do you think that was probably about right?
A little bit. I wondered if because Stacey struggled in that first half and was on a booking. And we've heard about the fact that Tavernier can play left wing back. I wondered if he'd just go, I might give you a go there, bring Billing on, move you over to left wing back and get Stacey off because he's on a booking. Because if you go, obviously it didn't happen, so it's fine. But I was just thinking, if you go 5 minutes in the second half and Stacey makes a rash tackle and gets sent off, this could be a cricket score. So I did think maybe he would do that, but we don't know the fitness levels of all of them. That might, Tavernier's running. He wasn't too bad, to be fair, and he's running around, and maybe you don't want to change too much, and you're thinking right now you've got to go and deal with him. And
well, that's what him and like Kiefer Moore was working hard as well. Kiefer Moore, I really felt for him, and like you say, Tavernier on the right hand side, he went on a mini run. He had to sort of backtrack on himself, but he held on to the ball really well. And
very energetic.
There were just those little moments within the game that gave Bournemouth fans a little bit of happiness. Of course, there was a Ben Pearson shot during the first half as well. And
if he'd caught that.
If he had caught that.
I mean, he didn't catch it too bad, but yeah, it just went straight to his throat, didn't it? But that was from, I think it was a deep cross from Smith, and Moore gets the knockdown. And I think what was difficult is, don't get me wrong, it's very, very hard to do, but with Kiefer Moore up there, we needed to get the ball into him earlier. And the problem was, if he was winning the headers, there was never anyone close enough to him to get the second ball. And that was the only time it was, and we got a shot away. And that's why I felt at half-time. I know the game was done, to be fair, but I wonder if we'd hung on to 1-0 at half-time, if he had done that and maybe gone, you know what, let's put Billing on, and let's get the ball into Moore, and Billing, you just be there for the knockdowns on the edge of the box. But I guess the game was done, and at that point, it's just keeping your shape and trying not to concede too many, which I suppose we did.
And when any times we did go forward, it seemed like, for instance, we had a throw-in. It wasn't that close to the penalty box, but we launched it into the penalty box. Went over, and I suppose it was a case of just trying to lump it into the box whenever you can, because whenever you've got Kiefer Moore in there, you've always got a chance of someone heading it. So that kind of pattern, it didn't necessarily carry on to the second half, because I thought for the first bit we were pretty good, really, for the first half of the second half, actually for most of the second half. But a lot of that, sadly, was because Man City just took their foot off the gas. They
knocked it about.
Yeah.
They're not going to exert too much energy in that situation. They're 3-0 up, aren't they? And they were very comfortable. And they'll say in that second half, we played better, we had a bit more of the ball and stuff, but we didn't test the goalkeeper. I mean, Edison didn't really need to be there, to be honest. So that means they're keeping the clean sheet intact and got the 3 points. So yeah, very comfortable for them. But from a Bournemouth perspective, we showed bravery and come out of it with a bit of pride at the end of the game, in the sense that we didn't just let them go. And we kept grafting. It would have been easy to go, these are too good, and they could have got 5-6. But we stuck in there, and to be fair, the goal they end up scoring is quite a fortuitous one. So we're nearly come out the second half with a clean sheet. So
you can say that, and also maybe Travis should have done better with Foden's goal.
Yeah.
So basically, it was 2-0. Make sure it's
Basically.
corrected on the Premier League table.
yeah, absolutely.
So the changes that we made then on 63 minutes, Ryan Christie came off, Stanislas came on, Lewis Cook as well made way for Phil Billing, which was a change that you thought maybe, given a different scoreline, it could have happened earlier. But, you know, those were two of the 3 players that didn't start in the last game.
Yeah, the free changes.
And you could say that along with maybe Stacey, probably the 3 newbies are
Struggled the most.
less good performers.
Yeah, like you say, it's very hard to give. You know, they're all kind of, none of them were horrendous, but none of them were brilliant. I just felt, I think if you looked at the goals individually, obviously we'll come on to the 4th in a minute, but I think the second goal, as we alluded to, Lewis Cooks probably should do better. The 3rd goal, Ryan Christie gives the ball away, and the 4th goal, Jack Stacey plays Cancelo on side. Yeah. He's not high enough up, and Cancelo gets in, crosses it, and obviously it comes off Lerma, and Stacey struggled all day. I always think Stacey's all right when he got the ball. He tries to drive you on, but defensively he's so naive. I just think he gets caught all the time. And you know, people have always said to me for years now that, is he catching up with Smith? No chance. Because every time Smith's fit, Smith plays, and that's been under 3 different managers. Maybe 4 actually, because obviously Woodgate for a spell. They always play Smith over Stacey, and yeah, I think it's because of that defensive naivety. We saw it last season. I think he gave a dodgy back pass to Lerma in one game that he got sent off. Was it Coventry? And then Derby away, he had to start, he gave away a penalty, got caught for a goal. I just think he gets caught too much, mate. And Christie, as much as I love his off-the-ball work rate, his decision-making is really poor at times. He hasn't got that final ball, has he? He can't get the shot away, he can't seem to get a good cross, and he just loses the ball too much in key areas. And against City, you're going to get punished on the break. I just felt Lewis looked a little bit rusty. He wasn't awful, but I just felt he looked a little bit rusty, really. But yeah, like I say, they weren't horrendous, but them 3 I just felt were a little bit off it, and it was just interesting to see that they were the 3 that come back into the team. I thought the 3 centre-halves done okay. I'd probably give them a bit, and Pearson wasn't too bad in front of them. As we said, people like Moore and Tavernier worked tirelessly, but it was a kind of impossible task for them.
Speaking of the centre-halves, throughout the game there was a pattern that it's obviously part of our play, whereby any goal kicks, we're playing it out from the back, we're playing it short, but ultimately though, we're lumping it forward.
Yeah.
Which is really strange, because any time we did lump it forward, 9 times out of 10 it was falling to Man City, or within a touch or 2 it would be recycled by Man City, and they'd have the ball at their feet, and they'd be just effortlessly striding up the pitch. I find that a funny tactic, because my assumption is that playing it short, so it would be Travers playing it out to Lloyd Kelly to Mepham, maybe Mepham to Smith, maybe back to Mepham or whatever, and then eventually it would be a lump forward, or Kelly would be lumping it forward. What's the deal with that? Is that to draw more Man City players forward for the press and then create more of a gap?
Yeah, I think so. It's trying to, like you say, as soon as you play that ball out to one of the centre-halves, that initiates their press, and they come onto you straight away. And then you're going, right, they're going to have we play it around, we get a few more of them out of position, and then we go. The problem with it was, in the City game, was then we were obviously targeting going long to Kiefer Moore, which makes sense, he's good in the air. But there's almost no point of him winning it, because the knockdown wasn't going, there's no one there.
Well, exactly. And what I found was, when we were messing about with it at the back, there were players like Lewis Cook and Ben Pearson getting drawn in to being more options for people like Chris Mepham, but invariably they weren't getting utilised because it was just a long lump up. And then it seemed that when it was lumped up, Kiefer Moore had no one around him anyway, like you said. So
this is why
was there any point in doing that?
Yeah, this is why I felt that I still think it'd be interesting to know, we'll never know, but if we'd come in at 1-0, I still feel like he would have put Billing on, because we'd have been kind of in the game. Because I just feel like, you know what Billing's like. I totally understand why he didn't start, by the way, in this type of game. But when you're getting it forward and you lump it up to Kiefer Moore, you've got to have a midfielder who's going to pick up the scraps, pick up the second balls. And Pearson and Lewis Cook are not them sort of players. And Christian Tavernier were doing that all game. It was hard for them to get close enough. And I think we saw it a lot last season when we eventually had to go long to Dom. Billing was always in and around him. I probably felt we could have even maybe used an option of whether it be a Dembele or an Anthony, just because they got the pace. to just like if Kiefer Moore does win a flick on, they could get in behind. So yeah, I mean we were cautious as expected, and I'm not going to say that we should have been more adventurous. This is what I mean with City. We've been there and been adventurous, and I remember going there before first Premier League season, losing 5-1 when we went for it, and we lose 4-1 when we try to keep it tight. What can you do? It feels like at the end of the day, virtually every player in every position is better than their opponent. So it's very, very difficult. We played a certain tactic. At the end of the day, if we keep it a little bit tighter and they don't score 2 goals, we come in at the break 1-0. We get them, we keep it solid. We could be in the game at 1-0 with 20 minutes to go. You don't know. It's just in moments they're so clinical, mate.
Tavernier, he obviously wanted to protect him for the next game. He took him off 10 minutes from the end. Senesi came on, made his AFC Bournemouth debut, and from that moment forward we didn't concede. A moment before that though we did, and it was your man that got the final touch.
He loves scoring though, doesn't he?
But you know what, Man City, they were on their left hand side and they just worked it really well. Jack Grealish with a little like looped ball forward, Cancelo, and he just played it in at pace. At pace, it's going to get a touch.
I think the player behind him, I'm trying to think of it, I can't quite see who it was. I think it might be that Alvarez actually. I think he's probably just going to put his foot on it if it doesn't hit Lerma. If you think, I think it's Alvarez, just watching it now. Yeah, I think he's going to put his foot on it anyway, one of them. But if you go back slightly, obviously we're just looking at it now. If you go back before the little loop ball from Grealish, as you say, you can see what I was trying to allude to earlier, that Jack Stacey's at the back stick there, and when he plays this ball forward, he's too deep. He's far too deep, and everyone steps up to try and get Cancelo offside, and Stacey's just a little bit off it, and that keeps Cancelo onside, which was a shame. But yeah, it was a shame that we couldn't quite just. It would have been nice for the boys to go, you know what, went out that second half, and we didn't let it be any more, and we showed that we can for 45 minutes keep a clean sheet against one of the best teams in Europe. But yeah, they got that one. Real shame for Jeff. He just stuck his leg out and it ricocheted in, and there's what it is, mate.
Were you surprised that we didn't see the likes of maybe a Dembele coming on? Just someone who doesn't really have that defensive mentality in him. I know that he's had to at times, and he hasn't been too great at it. But when he's going forward, he's just focused on getting forward and getting past players, just to see how he can cope and if he can cope. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. I think again I go back to the fact that because the game was done, I think he's just trying to keep the score down, really, which I understand. We're 3-0 at half time. The game's done. Let's be real. We're not going to go and get 3 or 4. So yeah, it's kind of so them sort of players I always felt we're not going to get on. Then I wonder, as I mentioned about Billing, if it was 1-0 at half time, or maybe even at the start of the game, if Anthony, Dembele, Billing, them sort of players could have maybe been utilised. Because of the way the game went, I'm not going to be overly critical that he didn't get him on, to be honest. But I think if it was, put it this way, if it was just say it was 1-0, 20 minutes to go, I think he's getting an Anthony or Dembele on for the counter-attack and they're pacing behind. But once it gets to as it was, there's no point in them sort of players coming on. Obviously, nice to see Jamal Lowe get his Premier League appearance right at the end for Kiefer, who went down. He was probably just shattered, bless him. And as you just quickly mentioned, just after the goal, Senesi getting his debut as well, and in them little 15 minutes,
his distribution was great.
Very good.
He looked solid, and also I've got to give a shout out for Stanislas as well. He looked
lively.
Lively on the ball, and
had a shot. I think they were half shot, didn't he?
Yeah, and you can see that touch of quality. He wasn't perfect, but there is quality there, and I thought it was nice to see him. And Phil Bill does what Phil Bill does, but
I think as well, just to mention the fact that when you were saying about Dembele and Anthony and stuff, I think it's because the game's done. I think with someone like Junior, it's always getting that balance of going with his fitness issues. He can't play too much, but he also can't be just sat there not playing for ages, because when he eventually is needed, he'll break down because of his injury problems. So I think when you've got the chance to give him 15, 20 minutes, I think it's quite good to do it. He done it against Villa as well, didn't he? Just to kind of just chuck him on and just get him a few minutes, I think is quite important, just to keep him sharp and his body ready. So yeah, pleased to see him, and I really hope he can I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Junior, because you even see in spells like that against probably the best team in the league, he's got a little bit of quality about him. I just can't get too carried away with June because of his injuries. Real shame.
But Haaland touched the ball
8 times.
8 times. I mean, one of them was an assist.
Yeah.
But that's got to be a W in the consolation column for AFC Bournemouth.
A little bit, yeah. I think the problem is, you worry about Haaland, it probably makes everyone else better and harder to pick up. I don't think they score the first goal if they're playing with a false 9. No. That little 1-2 they tried to do off Haaland. So, yeah. But what I will say from a Bournemouth perspective, we done very well on him. We said earlier, Foden squares it to him, he's got a goal straight away, and that changes the game. But I thought Lerma done a really good shift on him. I thought it was quite clever actually from Scott, I think, to give him credit that he just switched Mepham and Lerma's positions, because I think Mepham trying to man mark Haaland would have been very, very difficult. Yeah. I think Lerma, they just went physicality, and Lerma, I think Lerma beat him in the air virtually every time. So yeah, Lerma should take credit from that. He's not a defender either. So yeah, we got to take little bits of credit when we get it, mate. And I thought we kept Haaland relatively quiet. Even people like Mahrez and stuff, I thought we ushered them as best as we could. It's difficult. I think the ones we struggled with were in that first half in particular, where the game was won, was in that midfield of Gundogan and De Bruyne. I just felt they were allowed to orchestrate things a little bit too much. But listen, it's very, very difficult to keep quiet. I'm not going to be too critical on the boys from that. I just felt we maybe gave them a little bit too much respect at times in that opening period.
If you follow us on Twitter, you'll know that after full time, after every game, we always ask for a 5-word match report. So we're going to go through a few of them of what people said. We've got Tim who says Haaland 0, we are massive. Paul said lowest expected return fixture. Onwards. Tony, was there a game today? Toughest game out of the way, says Tom. It doesn't get any easier, said Owen Sherry. We got Simon saying City hot but Haaland halted, like that. Glad I stayed at home, said Paul Kenwood. Pre-match fireworks were very good, said Gail. They were very good.
I felt the heat from back. That's cool. I like that. Yeah.
Love that. Leanne saying onwards and upwards, mighty chairs. Kept it to 4 goals, said Carol Toller. Excellent. City equals AFCB bogey team. Erling Haaland isn't that good, said Andy Jennings. Nice to have him on the fan cams as well. John Spark again on the fan cams. Toughest game done at least. We've also had a boring bag of piss from Sean. More money in the bank. Still queuing at Burger King.
That was
Tom.
me, yeah.
Was that at Warwick Services on the way back?
Yeah, I mean, when
you about half an hour, didn't it? Fast food.
You get the little receipt thing, don't you? And it said 8:03 ordered, and I got it after 8:30.
That's ridiculous.
Probably because Warwick Services were full of Man City fans, which was odd.
Yeah, kept Erling Haaland from scoring. We've got a lot more. At least Haaland didn't score. On to the next match, says Tasha.
This sounds simple. We're just so happy that Haaland didn't score. That's a win for us, Bournemouth fans. God.
You can read all them on our Twitter
Take
account.
the compliments, City. That's how good you are.
If you want to follow us on our socials, it's at AFCB.
Do you find, I don't know if you agree with me, do you find it really difficult to almost dislike City because of how good they are at football?
You know what,
they're so good at football that I just think I can't not like this team because they play football in such a beautiful way.
You know what, I even liked their fans. I thought their fans were very likeable as well. And we'll talk about this on Wednesday's away day review show. But yeah. I really did, and I chatted to a few of them before the game, after the game, and they're very respectful, and they know they're turning up and watching their team demolish Bournemouth. So I'm sure that if they're chatting to a fan of, say, Spurs or Liverpool, or even a team that's like West Ham, there's probably a little bit less respect shown, which I can understand. But it was really interesting. The Bournemouth fans were singing, "Where were you when you were shit?" And instantly the Man City fans retort, "Beating you when you were shit," which was, I'm sure, has been done many times before. But loved the fact that also the Man City fans were getting up for it with little old Bournemouth, like, you've had your day out, now F off home, and all that kind of stuff. That's quite nice to see.
That they actually giving us
care a little bit.
Yeah, no,
we're all in the same league after all, and upsets do happen, just not on this occasion.
Nah, unfortunately never against them, but I'm not surprised when I see the way they play. But yeah, that was nice, you say. But yeah, I mean, we're singing "Where were you when you were?" But I mean, probably a lot of their fans, just only have to be slightly younger than me. Well, they've never been shit. Have they? Do you know what I mean? It's been you think about it now, it's been quite a fair period since they got the cash in and have really gone to the next level. So, but yeah, as I just think it's very difficult to have a real kind of hate them because they got the money and now they're good when they play such good football. It's like it's a breath of fresh air to the league, mate. It really is.
So let's check out the average positions then, and these are AFC Bournemouth going forward. So we see that Kiefer Moore is the most
just in their half though.
Yeah, just in their half. We got Tavernier, which I can see that sort of sums up his average position there. But when you're looking at Man City's,
it's not a bad. What I will say is it's not a bad shape though. For what you're trying to do.
The shape's actually
they're not all over the place.
And I think Scott will be taking this data and looking at it, thinking it's a plus because they were fairly disciplined throughout, and look, quality did show.
Yeah, exactly.
And shine through. But Man City's, I mean, they only had they had 3, including their keeper, in their own half.
Can you even see that? If you look at both goalkeepers, their goalkeeper's nearly outside his box because he's probably just bored chilling. Do you know what I mean? It's mad. But yeah, I think the 2 centre-halves were just in their half, just keeping a little eye on Kiefer.
Yeah.
But they're all so far up, aren't they? I mean, that's the fullback. The fullbacks, the way they come in as well, like, it's just yeah, it's mad. But yeah, not too surprised by them.
Should we give a shout out to Nathan Ake? He was unreal, wasn't he? He was absolutely super. And you know, there was one moment where someone sprayed a ball out to the right hand side. And I thought, oh, you know, Tavernier's in here, but Nathan Ake strides across the pitch and mops up. And
I'm so glad they're seeing it now as well.
Yeah, they're seeing it.
It's getting that run in the team.
Stephen from Esteemed Company has tweeted about Nathan Ake yesterday, I think it was, and he sort of said, look, you know, we need to stick with players more because it's clear that he's an asset. There are some City fans that still remain unconvinced. I think perhaps the more entitled City fans are saying that, but he is a class act and he's shown it. And yes, we are little old Bournemouth, and yes, he may have made a blooper against Liverpool in a glorified friendly, but I tell you what, when he gets minutes, he's such a consistent player. So he's definitely one that you did. You know, had you got rid of him to Chelsea, I thought that'd have been terrible.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. I kind of get it that if you're City and you can almost buy anyone, you probably instantly go, why are we getting someone from Bournemouth who've just got relegated? Yeah. So I kind of get that, because you think, well, he can't be that good then. But also, by the way, we had a chance of staying up and he got injured in that COVID, and then we went there. We were done then. But what I will say is, he's, for me anyway, can't speak for everyone else, don't know about you, Sam, but for me, I'm a little bit younger, but he's the best player I've ever seen in the Bournemouth shirt, in my opinion. So consistent, so likeable, scored crucial goals, just so good on the ball, and he was. We were never going to keep him for long. We were never going to keep him. And I'm just pleased now a few City fans, like say Stephen and others, have said that he's obviously got his opportunity now because Laporte's injured. And they're going, if Laporte was fit now, he'd have to bide his time. Because he ain't getting straight back in the team. And yeah, you know Mug, if you play, he plays for Holland, he's showing his class for City now. And I think it's always difficult, especially for a defender, when you're coming in at the team, playing the odd cup game. Him and Diaz seems to be, I tell you what, looks like a good look because he's class act. But Ake, yeah, he's Joe. But it was a nice moment to see him. He was the first one to come over before our team even and give us a clap. We sing a song, and as I say, we missed it in COVID. Couldn't really say goodbye to him. But I always want to see Ake do well. I love Nathan Ake. What a player! And just he's so likeable, isn't he?
He is. He's
really
annoying.
Likeable. He's annoyingly good.
And then when you look at the heat maps as well, I mean, yeah, they're just all over us. Look at that. It's unbelievable how much they are camped in our half. And they are camped because the hot spots for them are in the Bournemouth half, whereas we've got a little bit of joy in their half on the right-hand side. That's when Tavernier had a few touches, I'm sure, and then a little bit on the left. But other than that, I mean, the hot spots are in our penalty box, invariably from where they seem to score most of their goals, just on Travis's right-hand side there. But yeah, not great. And then the chalkboard as well. I mean, in terms of shots, wow. And even Lerma's got one as well. Hey. That was the own goal. But yeah, they absolutely peppered us. 19-4. They almost doubled our amount of passes as well. It was just a complete performance. And you know, Pep Guardiola, I'm sure he went back home with a glass of red, put his feet up, and thought, this bodes well for the season.
Yeah, job done. I mean, he's always respectful about us, which is nice. He always respected. He respected us with Etihad because we tried to play, and then he was also respectful of. I think he compared us to Tottenham, didn't he? He compared us to Tottenham in the way that we were quite disciplined. And to be fair, if you look at that, so we were quite disciplined. They scored some good, but it wasn't like, even though he made some saves, and even though they were brilliant, it wasn't like Travers had to have the game of his life to keep it a 4.
No,
so you know, we were quite disciplined. You know, trying to obviously take the positives as we can. But as you say, with the touches and stuff, I looked at a few bits, and because I actually saw an interesting one was Tavernier 100% pass completion rate.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, that's pretty impressive. And then I looked at theirs, and it was like 98% for Rodri. And I thought, oh, that's quite good. I have to go into that. And I thought, Tavernier, how many passes did he make then? 16. How many Rodri make? 102 or something. Like, it's just unbelievable.
If you could...
But we done all we could, and we didn't come out of it disgraced.
So I'm going to echo a few comments from fellow AFCB podcast team members. So Jeff Hayward, he said that my overriding comment about Saturday is that we didn't foul them enough.
I agree with that.
We should be stopping their transition play before it got too dangerously close to the goal. He said, is that too cynical a take?
No, I agree with that. I think City are a very good side at doing that as well in kind of big games. They'll give the odd clever foul. Fernandinho used to be a master of it. I do wonder if, I thought Lerma had a good game, as we said at the back. If we had, you know, if Senesi had been with us a few more weeks and Lerma had been in that midfield, could I have seen Lerma given them one early? I think there was a few times. I mean, it's a difficult one, Nick, because we can't be overly critical of Stacey because of that early yellow and then say we need to give away more. Do you know what I mean? In the same breath. But I agree with what Jeff said. I think a few times we said that we were most vulnerable when we had the ball up the pitch. There was when like Christie lost the ball and that, they had so much time to get the ball up to De Bruyne. Little shirt pull. We need to be a little bit clever at that, which I thought we might be, but sometimes you can't get near enough to foul them.
Then, you know, there were a couple of occasions where that happened, like, you know, Chris Mepham was booked for, you know, like a cynical foul, but maybe it should have just happened a bit further up the pitch, perhaps.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit too late. I think we should have been a little bit more shithousery at 0-0, to be honest, and really give him a game. I think like Smithy was kicking off at the end when he got booked and stuff. It's a little bit late now.
Yeah, and also Jeff went on to say that midfield weren't quick enough in transition. For example, Pearson and Cook for 2 of their goals, and also lost the ball too easily when in their half. Christie and Stacey being a bit too naive as well, and also players maybe not holding the line enough as well. But you know, he did say that it'd still rather lose 4-0 to City than to Brentford.
Yeah, I reckon they would have been more happy with seeing that score than ours, to be honest with you. I actually, when we went up, obviously went in a separate car to you, and we parked on the driveway. It was a United fan. When we got back to the car after the game, he was not happy. Yeah. He was sat at the front going, I can't watch anymore. Yeah, so I'm sure City are loving life at the moment. But yeah, we're well above United, mate. Yeah. Well above them. So easy.
Yeah. Okay, and you know, if you want to know our opinions about Man United and all the other clubs in the Premier League, then there's a Premier League show coming to you very soon, so why not hit the subscribe button, because then it will drop on your YouTube homepage. Tom, it's been a pleasure to go over that. You know, all is not lost, is it? All is not lost. There's plenty of games to look forward to, and that was never going to be one that we were waking up with any expectations for, was it?
No, and I certainly wouldn't be like awake and alive right now if we got something out of that game, because I would have been on a bender. So yeah, apart from a massive shock, that was kind of expected, mate. So we can't look too much into it. They'll look on a few little bits that we've gone into, I suppose. But going to the next game, mate, brush that one off. No one's surprised, and yeah, just Arsenal and Liverpool to come.
Remember, if you want to hear on the go what you've just watched, you can do it via the AFCB podcast. Yeah, we're actually called a podcast because we're a real podcast. So go to your podcast app, search for Back of the Net Bournemouth, it'll appear, then you can subscribe to it, and then at the start of every week we'll drop the audio download of the second look, which enables you to listen to our glorified reliving of victories, draws and losses like that. But either way, it's been a pleasure, Tom.
And you, mate, as I say, come out them first 2 games, Villa and City, we got 3 points on the board. Could have been a lot worse, mate. Could have been a lot worse. Into the next one. We're all in good spirits, mate.
All in good spirits. Until the next video here on Back of the Net. Up the chairs.
Up the chairs.